What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. Let's get it to 100 likes so we can turn on the face cam. This stream, we're going to be doing another goal. We're just going to be doing a number goal here. 50 super chats, any color. Can we get there? We're about to find out. But we're going to be doing it. We got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of 2026 stuff because, it's not too far away. And definitely we'll talk about the Trump administration. And you do have a bill that has passed through Congress today that has a lot of Trump's economic agenda in it. So we'll see if that's going to pass through the Senate, what is going to happen to it. But it did pass through the House, so you already have a Donald Trump victory potentially brewing because, no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and many other elements of Trump's agenda are in that spending bill, which is a very good thing. So Donald Trump already out of the gate, you're talking about a potential legislative victory because we haven't really talked about one quite yet. So we will be getting into that a little bit, talking about Trump's approval. The left is still losing their mind about Doge, losing their mind about everything. They just have lost their collective minds during this Trump term. But there's not as many of them. Donald Trump's approval rating is riding high, and we're going to be looking at that too. But I did want to, when we get the 100 likes, I did want to talk about very briefly something that I didn't know that happened until an hour ago because I don't think a lot of people pay attention to every minuscule special election that takes place in the country. But we do know Democrats have had a track record of overperforming in them, and we now are alive. But Republicans have significantly overperformed in a special election. This does not happen very often. Democrats rode the wave of special election overperformances to delusion in 2024. They said, oh, well, we're overperforming here in this race where 10,000 people showed up for, so Donald Trump is screwed. But they don't understand that the hyper politically active group of people in this country, they tend not to vote only in presidential elections or midterm elections. They tend to always vote. And this is a problem for Republicans because they're no longer that high propensity party. They've become the low propensity party, but you're seeing what is happening here in Connecticut. Republicans, they overperform by 7 or 6 points. I mean, this is a district that has been kind of a swing district. Republicans, held onto it before in Connecticut, but they were able to go out there and stop the Democrats from getting a super majority because of it. So you're seeing what's going on here. They won it. They overperformed in it. This is not something that I guess you would say happens very often, but it's happened here. And can this happen again in an off-year election in Wisconsin statewide? I actually think it can because of how much money Republicans are actually pouring in, the fact they found a good candidate, the fact that Wisconsin Democrats are imploding. They were once viewed as, they're the best swing state Democrat party. Well, I don't think that that's going to hold up after you decide to call, or at least the governor decides to call mothers, not even birthing persons. That was bad enough. They've passed that. Now it's inseminated persons. I don't think Tony Evers called his mother a birthing or inseminated person. I think he called her a mother, one of the most important words ever created. But no, they get rid of that too. We understand it because these people are crazy people. They don't belong in the governor's mansion. They belong in a mental asylum. And Donald Trump, he's able to go out there. He won, and now he's doing his thing out there. And already you're seeing over performances like we haven't seen before in special elections, going all the way back to, I don't even know the last time you saw them, but it seems like ever since like the whole, Dobbs backlash has died down, Democrats are a little bit less politically engaged. They've been demoralized, and maybe Republicans can go out there and take advantage of it. They have all this AstroTurf type, oh, Doge this, Doge that, Doge is evil. Why? Why is it evil? Why is government efficiency a problem? Why is cutting wasteful and useless spending a problem? It's not. If anything, it's been long overdue in this country. It's been needed in this country, but for some reason, they've just been unwilling to do that for how long? Because a lot of liberal causes in our country, across the entire globe, they've been funded by a lot of these things like USAID, and that's only one department. There's plenty of other departments where you have a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. If you go in there, you get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse, you're going to have a more efficient government, and it's going to be a government that's going to be able to serve the people better. And they don't want that because they want it to be self-serving. They want it to serve their agenda, serve the uniparty, serve the elite, you name it. That's been what the issue's been. But Donald Trump has broken the uniparty. He's cut it, basically. You have all the rhinos, they're gone, they're on their way out, or they're conforming, they're adapting. There's no other way around it. Whereas the Democrats have just completely lost their mind, and they're like, oh, Trump is evil. He's unpopular president, this, that, and the other thing. Well, no, that's not how the American people are viewing Trump. And is he still like plus 10 in the approvals? No, of course, the honeymoon period is a real phenomenon. Usually you'll start off above water and then you'll dip. And he's probably higher than what a lot of these approval polls are showing, especially because of the fact that some of these online panels are still very corrupt. They've been full of these crazy leftists going all the way back to COVID. You haven't really been able to solve the problem. They were way off in the 2024 presidential election, engaging not just Trump's approval, or not just the end result, but also Trump's approval. But now Donald Trump, you're seeing it. He's still above water. He's stabilized essentially at 49%. It's true the disapproval has gone up, according to the polls, but the approval has stayed the same, and he was at 49.4 a few weeks ago. He's still at 49.4. The disapprove has gone up marginally, but the main takeaway is he's above water, and it's still very likely that these polls are underestimating Donald Trump, not overestimating Donald Trump, because you still have polls like Quinnipiac, the CNN poll. CNN, they manufacture numbers to serve a narrative. It's always been that way. So you have these rapid swings in these CNN polls that we see. But regardless, Trump's approval is stabilizing. They're like, oh, Doge is evil. People don't exactly want to support Trump because of the Department of Government efficiency. It's like, do these people hear themselves? They're saying, oh, the federal workers are being laid off. Well, good. Who cares? Gives a shit about these people. Corrupt scumbags living in D.C. Like the average American is going to be caring about their jobs. Yeah, who cares? Seriously, these people just leech off the system. They've been doing that, and they've been destroying our country in the process. Yeah, get them out of D.C. Get them out of there. Seriously. Like, I have no sympathy for these people whatsoever. People that actually love this country also have no sympathy for these lunatics. So it's a good thing. And that's, if anything, helping Donald Trump. Then you'll have people that'll say, well, what about inflation? That's a problem that Trump is not fully fixed. It's like, yeah, he's been president for 1 month. This thing's been going on for how many years? I mean, the inflation rate is way too high. Everybody can agree with that. Here's the deal, though. If you cut government spending, inflation's going to go down. Wow, who's ever thought of that before? Basic economics that a 7th grader could figure out. Wow, okay. But it's like these people are clowns. They've always been clowns. They'll always be clowns. And when you look at what's going on with Donald Trump and his approval rating, his popularity, he never had a 49% approval during term 1. But he's actually enacting policy, and he's stabilizing it. And he's more popular as a person, which is also fueling his approval rating to be more popular as well. That's why he's doing so well in the polls. And it's also why Republicans so far, it seems like they're not really taking their foot off the gas with some of these things. When you look at the registration data, and people are fed up with Donald Trump, wouldn't they register to vote? And wouldn't they be more likely to register to vote as a Democrat? We're not seeing that. In fact, Republicans keep making gains there, making gains in New Jersey ahead of 2025's gubernatorial election there later this year. That's going to be crucial. Wisconsin, Republicans possibly, not guaranteed, not overwhelming favorite, but there's more signs that point to them flipping the Supreme Court back at this stage in the game than not, in terms of the available data, the polling data, the fundraising data, all that sort of data. Now, it is also true that Wisconsin, a lot of those Republican, MAGA voters, they do tend to be lower propensity, and they will need to turn out in decent enough numbers to give Brad Schimmel the victory there. But at the end of the day, it's not like it's ridiculously impossible or improbable that can happen because of what's going on in the polling, the fundraising. When you have the money, you can turn out voters. And because there is a big high information voting block in Wisconsin in the WOW counties, where you do have plenty of Republicans that are very politically active there that will show up to counter what you're likely going to see in places like Madison. But, it's still true that that wasn't enough to stop the bleeding for Dan Kelly, but Dan Kelly got outspent. Abortion defined that race. Republicans this time around playing their cards a lot better on that topic. That's going to help them go further in that special election, because that's going to impact 2026. It'll impact 2028. It's a very underrated race in Wisconsin, but people need to know about it. They need to get involved, donate, help out, especially if you live in Wisconsin. Tell your friends if they live in Wisconsin to vote, because so many people forget special elections happen. I didn't know there was one in Connecticut. I didn't know there was one in California. I don't know what that result's going to be, but I think the polls closed, and Democrats might overperform in that one. But it's not like it's indicative of 2026 or 2028 because of that, because we've seen that how many times, time and time again. During the calendar year 2024, we saw it time and time again in just almost, I'd say 80% of special elections. Democrats overperform Biden's 2020 performance by an average of 4 points that hint at a D+8, D+9 national environment. And then we see what happens. Oh, wait. Yeah, Donald Trump ended up winning overwhelmingly. He won by more than he won by in 2016. Wasn't even particularly close in terms of that comparison. And his approval rating is high. He's getting things done. He's working with Congress. It's going to be interesting to see what happens by the time that bill ends up hitting the Senate. How are they going to pass that? How are they going to get it to Donald Trump's desk? Are they going to be able to do so without severely compromising the merits of the bill? We'll have to see when the time comes, but regardless, it's just common sense. This is an administration that is operating on common sense. It is true, you have people that are worried, but the budget might cut Medicaid, but technically there's no set in stone cut that they're complaining about. They're just saying, well, if they cut, if they're going to put a balanced budget amendment on it, that means that they might have to gut it from there. But it's well, let's let Doge do its magic. Let's see what we possibly can do to go through these departments and cut what we need to cut in terms of some of these departments. And if we're able to do that, you're not going to have to touch Medicaid. But these people have a problem with ending the waste, the fraud, the abuse for one reason or another. And the only reason why you wouldn't want to do that, the only reason why you would oppose that is if you're involved in the corruption. That's kind of what matters. So in terms of the approval rating, it's looking good for Donald Trump. You still have a long way to go. His State of the Union equivalent address, the joint address to Congress, that will be taking place, I believe, on March 4th. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects Donald Trump's approval numbers as well. And he possibly can make his case to the American people, his agenda known to the American people. What is he planning on doing next? Because that's really what it comes down to. He's got to focus and deliver, and he is delivering. But it's we need more funding for mass deportations. That is 100% true. People will bring up that critique. That's not a critique that's wrong. And it's not like Donald Trump and Tom Homan and pretty much everybody else in the administration that wants to do mass deportations hasn't spoken out about the lack of said deportation. So we're seeing, the groundwork being laid. It's going to take a while. People that expect you to flip on a light switch overnight and everything is fine and it's just like a paradise. We're back in 2019. It's like, I don't know if we're going to be able to get there in terms of the economy, because that economy was something else. It really was. But the only way we could do it is if we keep moving forward and work on making sure that we can extend the tax cuts, spur more growth where necessary, as is in the bill. The new tax, the updated tax bill, it will do that because of what it does with the Made in America tax credits. All these things that Donald Trump campaigned on, they're in the bill. And it's hopefully going to set the economy back in the right direction, where you're not going to have 70% of Americans saying the economy is poor, the economy is not working for them. That's kind of what it comes down to, because so many people, they can't even afford a home. It's getting ridiculous. So many things going on that are just not good. We're not the same nation that we were. It's just not affordable to live the way we used to live even, 5-6 years ago. So we got to make sure that we get the country back on the right track. But who better to do it than the president that added a lot of jet fuel to a sluggish economy back in 2017 when he took office. The same guy took office about a month ago. He's already delivering, so that's good. And he needs to deliver, so he's going to be able to have a trifecta in Congress for not just the next couple of years, but also from 2027 in January to the end of his term. That's going to be very important. And he's going to need a strong midterm performance to make sure that that can happen. And he very well possibly could get one. But it does seem as if we're already seeing candidates enter the field. Candidate recruitment, it's a very important thing. We are not too far away from the midterms. In terms of the primaries, we're going to see some primaries start happening about a year from now. Obviously, it's a long time, but in terms of the campaign cycle, races like Ohio, I think Ohio is in March, maybe April. Texas will be one of the first ones in the nation, as it usually is for like these down ballot primaries. But the main takeaway that a lot of people had from the past week in terms of 2026 news is what's going on in these governor's races, because you see a lot of people talking about certain candidates who might run, might not run, are already throwing their hat in the ring, and you're seeing what's going on with them. So you look at Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy jumped in the race. He's running for governor of Ohio. He ran for president. Not a lot of people knew who the guy was before he ran for president back in 2024. He was a kind of the star of the show of a lot of these primary debates. Donald Trump didn't show up to these primary debates because why would he? He's ahead. He knew he was going to win. He's polling in the 50s, polling in the 60s in a lot of these states. Why even bother? Unless your numbers are going to decline because of it. But Vivek was kind of like the stand-in for Donald Trump. He never really attacked Trump, but he did attack Nikki Haley a lot about her foreign policy. He attacked her about a lot of different beliefs and values that she had, and he kind of became a star in that process. Even people who were voting for Trump in the primary, they liked Vivek because he was that guy. They didn't really know a lot about his stances at the same time. They didn't know a lot about his past, but they liked him because he was an effective communicator. He did very well in the debates. All that stuff is objectively true. And now he's running for governor of Ohio. And it's an interesting thing. Donald Trump did endorse him. There's a couple of polls there. He was polled against Dave Yost. I think it's Yost, the Attorney General of the state of Ohio, who has a lot of name recognition, but Vivek kind of has universal name recognition at this point because he ran for president, because he's known for being like one of these top Trump surrogates, and he's a very effective communicator. He brings the house down every speech, and that's true. Still, you have a lot of people that are not on board with Vivek, and a lot of these people are not just like neocons or DeSimps or whatever. These are also people within Donald Trump's like core base, because of some of the things that Vivek has said recently about immigration, about H-1B visas, and about just Americans in general. And a lot of people are looking into his past and they're seeing like, oh, he's not like vetted. They're attacking him for some like drug he promoted when he was like in a pharmaceutical company. And honestly, I don't even know if that's like the biggest deal. He can explain that away very well. But then at the end of the day, he's a very he kind of comes off as slippery, like a salesman of sorts. And I want to like Vivek, and he probably is going to be the next nominee for governor, but there are a lot of people who are a little bit iffy. And I put a poll out today on my community tab, and 60-some% of people said they support Vivek. They're going to join in, in terms of supporting him. And then you have about a third that was like, I don't trust him. I might be able to vote for him in the primary, but he has to earn my trust. And then you have another group of people that just says, no way. I'll never back him in the primary. Some of those people probably wouldn't back him in a general. Now, let's be honest here. My audience does not all live in Ohio. That could go either way in terms of analyzing the validity of that poll or what that poll actually means. But it is true. You have a big portion of my audience that does live there, but most of them don't. Most of them, I'd say probably 90-some% don't live in Ohio. It's not like a state that makes up the biggest share of the population. But regardless, you have a lot of people that'll say he's going to lose, and that's not true. Like, I don't think he's going to lose to a Democrat. There was a poll that came out that was an internal for one of the candidates that showed her at 46 and showed Vivek at 45. But that poll also showed Vivek like decimating Tim Ryan. Like, he was beating Tim Ryan by like 7 points in the same poll, which leads me to believe it was a push poll, internal. I wouldn't read too much into it. And, Tim Ryan is somebody who has a lot more name recognition than Amy Acton, and he destroyed Amy Acton in the primary to face J.D. Vance in that Senate race back in 2022. So I'm not entirely sure like that's the best way to read it as like, he's not electable based off of one poll. But I will say that there are legitimate concerns that people have, and Vivek needs to probably address them in order to make sure that he can have an easy primary, because who knows who's going to run. I think that it does seem as if Dave Yost is in the race, but it doesn't really seem as if he's going to gain much traction. You're going to need somebody with a little bit of star power, and the new lieutenant governor is none other than Ohio State University former football coach Jim Tressel. And if there's anybody that could beat Vivek, I feel like it'd be him, because he has a lot of name recognition. Pretty much everybody in Ohio likes Ohio State in terms of their football team. And also the whole comment that he made about a lot of these like white Americans, they like the they don't like the nerds. They like the people that play sports or whatever. That's what like they see as aspirational, not people who are like successful. It's like he could wedge that well. But the main takeaway that I have from it is that if there's a problem with Vivek, it's not that he's too MAGA. You'll see people that they'll say he can't win, he's too MAGA, he's too aligned with Trump. It's like, Ohio, Trump won it by 11, you dumbass. Let's be honest here. The issue with Vivek, if there is an issue, is that he's a big tech guy who has consistently wanted higher immigration at a time where you have a border crisis, specific immigration from a broken program called H-1B that lowers Americans' wages and needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. And in the process, he insulted Americans, mainly working class white Americans, who make up a majority of the electorate in Ohio, and basically insinuated that they could be dumb or stupid, hence why he thinks that we need to import a bunch of people from a country that has an average IQ score of like 78 to somehow run big tech companies. I don't know what his logic is there, but also he ran for president, and during his presidential run, he also ran on putting the U.S. back into TPP, which is a globalist trade deal that was just rejected by Ohio. It's partially why Trump won in 2016, was railing against TPP, was an awful deal for the Rust Belt, and Vivek for some reason supports it and is basically saying we need to make Ohio the next Silicon Valley. If I'm advising Vivek, I'm not going to tell him to run on that, because I don't think that's something that Ohioans really want. So I will say that. I'm not saying that I'm not like in support of him. I'm not sure who I would back. Trump is backing Vivek, definitely. It's bad optics for Donald Trump ahead of 2026 for him to have an endorsement lose, especially someone that's aligned with them. Now, like somebody like Karen Taylor Robeson in Arizona, he basically gave her a soft endorsement because she gave money to his campaign, and that was the condition. Andy Biggs has my endorsement in Arizona. Ohio, I'm a little bit undecided. It's possible that I back Tressel if he's in striking distance, depending on how he runs his campaign, depending on how Vivek runs his campaign. I'm open to Vivek. I'm not saying that I'm not. Maybe I'm just fence sitting because, I don't know, it's 2025 and there's so much we don't know about either possible candidate that could run in this race. But what I will say is he probably would win. He has a lot of money. Elon is backing him. Elon has a lot of money. Like this notion that, oh, he's going to lose Ohio because he's like, I don't know, because people on the internet don't like him. No, you don't get to compare him to other candidates that failed, that he has little to nothing in common with. Like I said, if there's a liability, it's mainly because of the fact that he kind of just somebody that has these big tech ties and has basically spat in the face of a lot of people, and not a lot of people know about those comments. So if he's able to clarify it, he's able to run a good campaign, he has my support. I don't have a problem, but I understand why people have these issues with Vivek, even parts of the MAGA base. And just because he has the Trump endorsement doesn't mean he's necessarily guaranteed to win. I mean, Donald Trump in the Ohio primary, he won like 85% of the vote, but his endorsement of Bernie Moreno, who won by a lot more than people thought, he got like 48% of the vote. Now, 48% was enough to win because it was a multi-candidate race. But if like Yoss decides to just bow out and Tressel runs and Yoss backs Tressel and Tressel runs a good campaign against Vivek and maybe even gets a Trump co-endorsement, which we've seen in the past in a lot of these primaries, it's like, yeah, there's a chance that that Tressel could end up winning that primary. So we have yet to see about 2026 in these primaries. I really would like to hear what you guys have to say. Do you guys support Vivek? A lot of you guys do, according to my poll on my community tab, but a lot of people are also very skeptical. They don't like his immigration stances. They don't like his comments. Now, I will say you have a few people that are like, no, he's worse than like a Democrat. Those people are wrong, 100% wrong. Vivek's immigration stances are bad, and I will say that because they are. But as a governor, you don't control the H-1B program. You don't. As a governor, you can control the illegal immigration aspect. If you're a sanctuary city or state, what benefits you give to them. But Vivek on illegal immigration is solid enough and aligned with Trump enough to the point where I don't have a problem with him in that position. But I will say that he has to deliver. Trying to turn Ohio into a new like Silicon Valley, that's something that's going to resonate with a lot of voters. Could be a closer race than people would anticipate, but I still think he would win. I think, worst case, he probably wins by 5. Ohio is not, Ohio from 2012. This is Ohio in 2025, 2026 by then. 2020 or 2018, you had Mike DeWine against a Democrat. He won by 3-4. That's kind of like the low ball estimate for what I would say like the worst case scenario for Vivek going up against a Democrat candidate. But either way, we'll have to wait and see what happens. We're not quite to 2026 yet, but also another race is shaping up to be interesting out of the state of Florida, because just before we went live, we had an announcement from Byron Donalds on the Sean Hannity show about his 2026 gubernatorial run. He's officially in. Donald Trump endorsed him. And this endorsement was a very good endorsement because Donalds has been a very solid congressman, very solid member of the Freedom Caucus. And that would be somebody that can easily win in Florida now and would be great to have him in Florida. And we're going to be getting into that in a second after a quick sip of water, though. Because it's like you have a lot of people in Florida, and they're all online. They don't exist in the real world, but they're extraordinarily annoying and wrong about literally everything. These are the DeSimps. These are the people that wanted Ron DeSantis to run against Donald Trump. Many of these people did not support Donald Trump in the general election, and it made their entire personalities seething about him the same way that the far left has made their entire personalities. The resist libs, you name it, the never Trumpers, their entire personality is, we hate Trump. They say Trumpism is a cult, MAGA is a cult, when in reality, if you say one bad thing one legitimate criticism about Ron DeSantis, the pitchforks are out. All 50 of them will be losing their mind, throwing a temper tantrum, hitting you with horrible political takes. And these are the same people that for some reason they're losing their minds about Byron Donalds. Why would they do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Byron Donalds is somebody that's a solid congressman. You think about this. Ron DeSantis in 2018 was in Congress for 3 terms. He was there for 3 terms. And he was a member of the Freedom Caucus, the way that Byron Donalds is, a relatively non-controversial member like Byron Donalds is, and he ran for governor. And it was a Trump midterm, and he won by a hair. It was a different Florida back then, but still, he won. Byron Donalds is somebody that'd be running in a much redder Florida, and he's also somebody that is a much more effective communicator than Ron DeSantis, who doesn't really, when he talks, he's not the most effective communicator. It's partially why he ended up losing in Iowa badly. The more people saw of him, the more they were repulsed by his candidacy. We saw that unfold. And it's partially what's tarnished Ron DeSantis's brand. They wanted him to run, we're going to beat Trump. They're delusional. Now they want to run again. They want to run a candidate against Byron Donalds. Why? Because Donald Trump endorsed Byron Donalds. Seriously, they can't get over it. They still can't get over the fact that they lost badly over a year ago, to the point where you have a president, the president has an ally in Congress, similarly to DeSantis in 2018, but more of an ally, who wants to run for governor, somebody who is not an electoral liability. He's not Mark Robinson. He's not somebody that has unpopular positions. He's not Doug Mastriano. He's not scandal-plagued. He's not Roy Moore. There's no real reason to oppose the guy. They're making stuff up out of thin air. They're saying he's not a real conservative. Why? They're like, he wasn't against Amendment 3 and 4. It's like, first of all, he was. I mean, I've read online, I've seen people say, Byron Donalds is pro-weed or something, and it's like, but he voted against Amendment 3. Even Donald Trump voted for it. Byron Donalds bucked Trump and voted against it. In terms of who's in the cult, as they like to say, and they say, Donalds it's a Trump cult thing. No, Byron Donalds has his own positions. So he's more in line with, I guess, their worldview or whatever they pretend to believe, because that's all it was. The only reason why a lot of DeSimps cared about Amendment 3 and 4, it wasn't because they care about abortion, or it wasn't because they care about weed. It's because they care about trashing Trump and, Trump's not taking a stance, even though Trump opposed Amendment 4. Byron Donalds also opposed Amendment 4. He didn't make it his entire personality because he was trying to one-up Trump or something like a lot of these other clowns did. But he did. There's no real reason to oppose the guy in terms of policy. He's relatively solid. Then they'll say, well, but he said, in the CRT thing, he called DeSantis racist and sided with Kamala Harris. And it's you look into the real quote. He said, I agree with the educational standards, except this one, where it talks, I guess, about some positive aspects or positive things that people learned during slavery, which was, again, poor messaging on the part of the DeSantis administration, because it was written in a way where the left took it out of context. They ran with it. There wasn't anything wrong with it when you dove into it. It's they talk about the skills or whatever. It was a little bit out of context. The left, they're scumbags, but you should know that. You should understand better than to word something that way, because it's bad optics. It really is. Donalds isn't somebody that trashes DeSantis very often. He didn't even do so during the primary. He just supported Trump, but that was too much for these people who now want Casey DeSantis to be the nominee for governor of Florida, which is hilarious. For those who don't know, Casey DeSantis is Ron DeSantis' wife. And again, these are the same people that said that Laura Trump becoming senator of Florida was a bad idea because it was nepotism, despite the fact that Laura has been more politically involved than Casey. Casey has been somebody that has just been the first lady of Florida. Fine, whatever. It is what it is. But you don't get to say Byron Donalds is unqualified and then also happen to say that instead you're going to support somebody who is being selected or touted because she happens to share the same last name as the current governor and nothing else. It's not like she has like a legal background or anything in that sort of thing. And it's like they're like, Byron Donalds was a Democrat in 2010. It's like, who cares? Casey DeSantis was at the Obama inauguration and praised it on television. But that's fine. That's fine. We'll sweep that under the rug, but no, we're going to pearl clutch about somebody because they happen to like Trump. That's how these people operate. They're clowns. They've ruined Ron DeSantis' name. Pretty much a lot of people in MAGA, they love Ron DeSantis. They were saying he's a possible successor. And obviously his performance on the national stage in general kind of proved that he wasn't really presidential material. But it's like, number one reason I feel like why a lot of people really have turned on DeSantis, why they stopped liking him, is because his fan club, which he listens to, by the way, which is why he took some pot shots at Donald's, these people are lunatics. They're the most unhinged losers I've ever seen in my entire life. And there's like 50 of them, but still they're very loud. And maybe more than 50, maybe a couple thousand. But they think they have an impact, but they don't. And they whine, oh, well, Trump is liked. People like Trump. They must be in a cult or something. Then be better. Be likable. And be better than Trump if you're worried about that. You're not. Okay, people, when you're running for president, they don't want to hear, oh, well, I did this minuscule anti-woke thing in Florida. It's like, okay, good. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying that people care about immigration in terms of the border. People want like a vision. They don't want to hear, in Florida, we did this in like a robotic voice. They didn't want to hear it. And now, because they lost, because they're upset, they want to run Casey DeSantis to be governor of Florida. Like, you cannot make this stuff up, but you just can't. But it's hilarious. And it's like, there's no qualification. Same people that said Laura Trump, being appointed to the Senate seat was nepotism. Casey DeSantis being pushed out there in the Republican primary field of the Florida's governor race. No, that's completely fine, they say. And they'll be like, well, actually, it's different because an appointment is not the same thing as if she ran for it. But okay, let's be honest here. Let's say the special election was tomorrow and Trump endorsed her. Would they not call it nepotism? Of course they would. They would have been whining about it. And here's the deal. Even if she's appointed to that seat because, nepotism, first of all, would have had to be DeSantis that would have made that appointment, for one. For two, I don't even think she would have wanted it. She's busy doing other stuff. But the main point is that she would be up for an election within a year, a primary election. And if people were upset about her being the pick because of nepotism, then they could vote for somebody else. But they're not. They're really not. And we're going to see what's going to happen. But I think Byron Donalds is going to win. He's an effective communicator. He has Trump's endorsement. Ron DeSantis does not have that much pull, as a lot of people think he does. If he wants to create a proxy war with the president, who's very popular, by the way, not just among the Republican Party, but he's above water. As a president to be above water nationwide, that takes a lot in this current day due to polarization. It's not 2000 anymore. It's not 2001 after 9/11 when Bush had a 90% approval. You'll never see that again. You will never see that again. You will never see that level of, now, I actually hope we do see it again. I hope we see national unity like that again. But realistically, in the next 4 years, you're not going to have that. But it's just ridiculous. You think you can still get your revenge by running your wife against a Donald Trump endorsed candidate because reasons. Because, he missed like 4% of votes in Congress. You were living in Iowa for a year. Literally a year in Iowa, when you were campaigning for a campaign that was doomed to fail the second that it launched on a glitchy, unlistenable Twitter space. Like, just these people never learn. And they want to run somebody that has no qualifications other than, she's the governor's wife. Okay. They'll say, Donald's like campaigns for Trump and goes on television. That's like a bad thing. It's like, no, not really. Not really. At least he's presentable on television. Doesn't look like a bobblehead who's awkwardly like stammering every time he's in front of a camera. Like, give me a break. I'm not going to say DeSantis hasn't done good things as governor, but it's like, this notion that he's immune from criticism, whereas Donald Trump to these people is like the worst guy ever. The same people that said he never had a chance. They said he never had a chance. Well, what happened? He won. And now they'll try to delegitimize his victory, despite the fact that he got a record amount of votes for a Republican ever. First of all, he did it not just once, but he did it a second time. And he got more votes this time, despite lower turnout nationwide. But he won the popular vote. Republicans were never supposed to do that ever again. And people want to say, well, he only won the popular vote by one. It's like, yeah, well, you understand the country we're living in. They just keep moving the goalposts. But we've been going on for far too long about this. I'm sure we'll address some more of it in the super chats, but we've got 582 people. We're almost halfway to our total super chat goal. So if you guys want to send in some super chats, feel free. Let's get to 50. Why not? You know, it's not about the it's not about the financial aspect of the goal. It's about the super chat aspect. Let's see how many people we can get engaged. So we're going to get to the super chats after a quick sip of water. XJ Cherokee Bear says Joy Reid will now spend her time fixing the smoke detector in her house. So true. Yeah, she's gone. She's gone. And she's not the only one they're getting rid of. I mean, at these news networks, there's been how many anchors are they just getting rid of because of ratings? I guess we're losing some punching bags on the right. The content's drying up. Nature is healing. Olivia Williams says Donald's a woke DEI. He's not a woke DEI choice. He has merit. He's a solid congressman. This isn't Tim Scott. This isn't somebody who sucks that people promote because we know why they're being promoted. As for the fact that people are mentioning Gaetz, let me say this about Matt Gaetz. I like Matt Gaetz. He's a fighter. But to pretend as if he's like going to be somebody that would win with flying colors even in current Florida is wrong. He's very polarizing. I'm not saying he would lose, but I'm saying it would make it a little bit risky putting Matt Gaetz at the top of the ticket in Florida. Now, if he ran for AG, it'd be a little bit of a different story, but the guy's very controversial. He's a bomb thrower. You're going to make a lot of enemies when you do that. I think that as like a special prosecutor under Pam Bondi, he's going to be great there, but I think the baggage, and a lot of it's bogus. I agree. A lot of the baggage is bogus, but we gotta be a little pragmatic here. You could basically get Gaetz without the baggage and Donalds. I would rather have Donalds than Gaetz be the nominee. Absolutely. Also, Mills shouldn't win Senate because of Well, I like both of them. I like both, and I know they don't like each other, but Mills has definitely exceeded my expectations. I like Sabatini a lot; he's a great guy, but I'm willing to put that aside. He's one of Florida's best congressmen in terms of Mills, and he would make a great senator, just like Sabatini would make a great congressman one day. Hopefully, he gets there. American Nerd 1776 has thoughts on what's happening at the NSA. I've heard rumblings about it, but I don't know enough to give you like a full answer. Olivia Williams says, you remember the Lauf Lombardo primary? Yeah, well, it didn't matter because they like drew the district, or they drew out both of them in that district. So, but I do remember it. I just don't think that you can't compare that to this. I mean, and even so, would Lauf have been that awful if she actually got in there? Probably not. I mean, I was against Anna Paulina Luna at first because of her past like stances that were a little bit iffy, but she's one of the best Congress people in Congress. So I can't really say that it would have been like the end of the world if she got in there and won like a blue leaning district, but it is what it is. It's a different time. American Nerd 1776's thoughts on what Meatball Ron said about Donald. Well, I thought it was just ridiculous. I thought it was self-serving. I think that DeSantis is somebody that he does have his grievances. He does. I mean, people say Donald Trump is like somebody who cares about personal loyalty, and that's a bad thing, they say. But look at them. I mean, they're wanting to ruin the guy's life over the fact that he endorsed Trump over DeSantis in a primary and then misrepresent his record and make it appear like he's some sort of bad guy. That's not exactly the way to go about these things. I mean, Donalds has been a solid congressman. Is he like the most based guy ever with a perfect pass. Like, no, he's not. But at the end of the day, who is? He's solid. He has Trump's endorsement. There's no reason to really go against the president if you're the governor of one of the biggest states and you want to be an ally to that president. And he's like, well, he's too busy campaigning in other states. Where were you in 2023? Like, does he not realize that? You had no shot to win. You were wasting your time. You were wasting money that could have helped Trump win the general. You probably even could have made a run to be Trump's VP and actually set yourself up to have a presidential career if you read the room properly and played your cards right, but you didn't. You didn't do that because you have either A, really bad political acumen, or B, you're listening to really bad advisors, which means you have really bad political acumen. And that's just DeSantis's downfall. Like, he'll never get to that next level because of that, because of his crew that's like, oh, well, we gotta like act like, Trump supporters on steroids when it comes down to the like personal loyalty thing. And we think we can have leverage while we're doing it. No, you can't. You people are irrelevant. They don't know who you are. You have no political pull. In fact, the people in Iowa who voted for Ron DeSantis in the primary, they tended to like Donald Trump a lot, according to the exit polls. Maybe they thought that, oh, Trump like couldn't win because they fell for like the age lie or like the electability lie or whatever. A lot of those people just said, oh, I'm going to just switch to Trump instantly after that. And a lot of people did. If you look at the New Hampshire primary, all of the DeSantis support, just like all of the Vivek support, went to Donald Trump. That's why he won the New Hampshire primary in part, because you had people drop out of the race. So I don't know how these people really think that they're doing something when they're just, when you come for the king, you best not miss. That applies here too. And they lost. I don't even really want to spend time talking about the primary. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It definitely was a distraction from the midterm disaster in 2022. It made 2023 quite enjoyable by the end of it. But it's like, guys, seriously. Like, they're still going on about it. And now they're going to try to get revenge in 2026, despite Trump, by running the wife of the governor against the Trump-endorsed candidate, who they claim has no qualifications, but they want to run somebody that has the qualification of, she's Ron's wife. What? Like, do you not see the disconnect here? Do you not see the double standard? They're clowns. They're clowns. If Casey won the primary, it'd be because of her last name. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's not going to be because of her qualifications. It's just not. But what can I say? Penn says, I know Byron Donalds. He's phenomenal. Calling him DEI is plain racism and tardation. We don't need Gate. Well, look, I think that stuff with the Gates scandal, it does seem as if it could be a hit job. I'm not gonna get into that. But I will say, yeah, Donalds is not, and I don't like throwing around words like that. I don't like using words like racism or whatever, because we understand who uses it's just a far left, it's a Marxist, like communist silencing tactic historically. But at the same time, when I see DeSimps on Twitter, or X, I guess we should say, comparing him to Mark Robinson, like, yeah, it's clearly, we know why they're doing it. It's because of race, clearly. Like, that's the only way around it. A lot of that is indeed rooted in that. That's not wrong entirely to say. And it's not something I say often, because I don't like using words like that because of how they're used, because it's a meaningless word. But the definition of the word, that if we're going to like use it ever, like, that's how you would use that term. So, like, yeah, in terms of this whole like Mark Robinson, like, how is he comparable to Mark Robinson other than the fact that he's like black? Like, there's no comparison there. Like, he's a solid congressman. I agree. There are a lot of DEI propped up people in this sphere, in the Republican Party. Tim Scott is one of them. He's unexceptional. He's propped up for one, and we know why he's propped up. They prop him up because he's black. They want to have that senator in there that it looks a little different, because that's how the GOP establishment operates. He's a very mediocre senator. We understand it. If he was white, nobody would even know who he is. In fact, Scott has said in the past, even, that the reason why he was recruited to run was in part because of that. That's why the Republicans wanted to run him. He went to the Democrat office first, and there's like too many black Democrats in the South Carolina Democrat Party that wanted to go for the House or the state House or whatever. So then he went to the Republican Party, and it was like, oh, well, they align with my values, and they want me to run because it's a little bit of a different vibe than what they're used to. So, but Byron Donalds, no. Donalds has he's earned it. They say DEI means didn't earn it. It means you get something because of things you can't control. Your skin color, your gender, sex, whatever you want to call it. Donalds has earned his he's earned his pathway to the governorship because he's a solid congressman. They say, what has he done in Congress? Well, what did DeSantis do in Congress? What the hell did Ron DeSantis do in Congress before? In fact, Donalds has the same exact pathway to the governorship that Ron DeSantis does. The only difference is Ron DeSantis served a few years in the military. That's literally the only difference. So, like, that's it. And that's not relevant. Like, congratulations. Service is noble. We get it. But other than that, it's like there's no difference to the point where you can actually sit up here and legitimately have a grievance with Donalds. They're like, he missed like 4% of votes. It's like, so he's there 96% of the time. Is that some sort of problem? American Nerd 1776 says, whether it's the USAID stuff or the BS that the Wisconsin governor's doing, the Dems are making the dumb mayor from Jaws look competent in comparison. Johnny Heartdog for 20 says, getting in a little late tonight. What's your view on Doge check that we might be getting? Some say it could be used to pay down the debt. Others say give it back to the taxpayers. I've heard good arguments from both sides. Yeah, I think that the idea of like, oh, we're going to give everyone $5,000. I'm not sure it's the best idea unless we can do it in a way that's controlled. Give people a tax break. It doesn't have to be like you get like a reparations check from government misuse. It's like, we understand what happened, but we don't want to do it in a way where it could cause the debt to be run up anyways. Like, we kind of want to cut the deficit as much as we could. So, let's see here. Red Whale Politics for 5. Johnny Heartdog for 20 says, do you think we'll get the check, or it'll be I hope it's in the form of a tax refund. Will it be the same amount across the board, or will somebody who's dirt poor like me get 500? Let's see. You send a lot of super chats if you're going to call yourself dirt poor, for one, but for 2, I think it'll probably be the same for everybody. Johnny Hard for 5 says, YouTube unsubscribed me, had to subscribe again. What's up with that? It could just be a general glitch. I haven't had a lot of people say that. It could be YouTube just messing around, but I don't know. That happens. It happens to me sometimes for non-political channels, so it's just, I don't even know. Ice Cream Junkie for 10 says, do you think Trump will go through with the 25% tariffs, or is he going to look for more concessions from Governor Justin and Sheinbaum? I don't know. It depends on if they're following through with what they've done. And even if they haven't, or they kind of follow through, it's still good to look for concessions where possible. But people that are acting like it's going to cause the economy to crash or whatever, the average American has had to pay every single year like $10,000 plus extra due to inflation caused during the Biden administration, where studies have shown that something like this, which would actually spur American growth possibly, despite having short-term losses, would cost taxpayers like not even $1,000 a year. It's like, yeah, I would pay that. I know some people might not, but it's like, if it incentivizes companies to invest here, incentivizes Americans to buy American, hire American, it's a good thing. This country was run on tariffs for a long, long time. Red whale politics for 10 says the only way Democrats can't really rebound in 26 or 28 is if Trump or Republicans make a massive mistake or an economic downturn. Well, it's hard to have an economic downturn, for one. But for two, yeah, I agree. And that's why I tell people you can't touch entitlements. You can't do it. Yes, maybe there's some waste and fraud in those departments that you can gut. But if you try to take people's entitlements away, even if you bring it up, the Democrats are going to run, and then they're going to run with that, and they're going to run with that successfully. And you don't want to do it. You don't want to hand over the baton to these people when they're just dropping it at every single possible opportunity. The Doge stuff is popular, but like taking people's entitlements, it's a third rail. You can't touch it, just like you can't have a national abortion ban. It might be the right thing to do, but it's not going to be for long when you lose the next election and then boom, Roe is back. Roe is codified. Yeah, well, you're not saving any lives in the long run. You're losing more. Ice Cream Junkie says, should Mike Rogers run for Gary Peters' seat? Well, I think he is going to do it. Let's see. Ash K2 for 10 says, Trump's approval cratering, several Republican congressmen getting booed at town halls, inflation rising, Democrats winning generic ballot by 13, but sure, tell us why a super blue wave isn't, well, because none of that's true. I mean, it's not true. I mean, Democrats are not winning the generic ballot by, there was a poll that was conducted a few weeks ago that had Republicans up by 8. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't think that's going to happen. And Democrats winning by 13. Yeah, that's definitely not going to happen. So the one thing I will say about the approval, I wouldn't say it's cratering. It's stagnant, actually, which is good. I mean, it's 49, 50%. The disapproval rating is below that. As for Republicans getting booed, that's always been a thing. Inflation is a problem, but that hasn't exactly stopped parties from preventing waves before. You can look at 2022 as a prime example. You had 9% inflation and you didn't have a red wave. Now, you could say that Dobbs played a role in neutralizing that, and maybe that's true, at least in terms of like the fundraising aspect of it. But I mean, there's plenty of other factors, but one poll doesn't tell us anything, and we don't really know what Trump's approval is doing right now, other than the fact that the RCP aggregate has it relatively stagnant. But some polls had him going up. Morning Compost had him going up. Economist, YouGov, which sucks, had him going up. And, we'll see. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says, I'm not fully on board with Vivek. He says, a lot of stuff without answering questions between him and another MAGA candidate. I would choose the other candidate, but if Vivek got the nomination, I'd vote for him. Yeah, I don't think that's unfair. I really don't. Like, I want to see what happens with this guy before I jump in and enthusiastically support him. Like, I know Trump endorsed him. I know he's up in the primary polls, and that's great. But like I said, I would like to wait and see how he runs his campaign before I say, I'm going to enthusiastically support the guy. Because he has said a lot that I've disagreed with. It's not just immigration. It's several things. And just the general evasiveness is a little bit off-putting and could make the race closer than it needs to be. I still think he'd win. But I want to see how he runs this campaign. I really do. If he does well and he's in the lead, I'll support him. If it's close or he's at risk or he's losing, it's like, yeah, if Tressel's running a good campaign against him, I would probably back Tressel, so long as he's proving himself to be MAGA enough, and maybe he'll get a Trump co-endorsement. It's not like Trump hasn't done that before. He might do it in Arizona as well. If Biggs can really run a good campaign. Red whale politics says it's hilarious if thinking that if Byron becomes a governor of Florida, will become blue, even though Florida's a deep red state because of MAGA and Trump, especially when Donalds is very MAGA. Yeah, that's the thing, is like Byron Donalds is somebody, like, he's not incompetent, for one. Like, he has shown no signs of incompetence. But the other takeaway from the Donald stuff is, like, even if he's a mediocre governor or doesn't do anything, how is Florida going to go blue under his watch? Like, that's not how it works. It's not. And it's not like Florida has gone red solely due to Ron DeSantis. Like, it is true. Donald Trump, he's the one that made Ron DeSantis, he coronated him as the guy in that primary when a lot of people in the establishment wanted the other guy. And DeSantis ran a pro-Trump campaign. And Susie Wiles was sent, the chief of staff for Trump. Trump sent her, she wasn't the chief of staff at the time, but Trump sent her down to Florida to help him with his campaign because he wasn't doing so well against the bisexual meth head known as Andrew Gillum. And he eventually won in a little bit of an upset, and that was in part because of Trump. He was out there rallying with Trump. Now he wants to run a candidate against Donald Trump's preferred candidate because people can't get over a primary, and I don't know, he's doing what he can to angle for power because now his wife is going to go for it. It's very strange to me. It's very strange. But yeah, it's 100% true. The people that think it's going to go blue, either in the election or just generally in terms of the state, they don't understand politics. They don't. Redwell Politics, is any special elections in Michigan? I don't know. Let's see. Timothy Knows says, how based are you? The utmost based. Of an Anaconda says, DeSimps in shambles. Maybe don't run against Trump next time and you get an endorsement for... Yeah, obviously, that's the thing. Even if they shut down the troll farm, DeSantis told these people, you people are acting like children. You people are in the real cult. Just quit doing this. Let Trump lead. He's doing a great job, whatever. And he stood up to these people. Then it's like, oh, well, look, DeSantis roasted the DeSims. Even they've lost him. And what that would do is it would probably make a lot of MAGA people like DeSantis. It would make DeSantis be in Trump's good graces. And then maybe at that point, if Casey really wanted to run for governor, Trump would consider it. But no, they're not going to do it. It's dumb, because even if that's what DeSantis wanted, he wanted to nefariously stay in power as a shadow governor through his wife, the way that George Wallace did in Alabama for a couple years back in the late 60s. It's DeSantis would have been better off doing that. He would have been better off angling in terms of the whole Trump thing than trying to sit here and run a proxy war against Trump and send all these people to trash Trump all the time. There's people why are you attacking him? The primary's over. It's why is he attacking Trump's candidate? That's the thing. I'm not even attacking DeSantis mainly. The only reason why I'm going to attack DeSantis is because he attacked Donald's. Because his supporters. And my beef isn't even mainly with DeSantis as much as it is with his supporters, with the DeSimps, because these people are lunatics. I'm not talking about people who like certain things he's done as governor, or even everybody who supported him at one point or another in 2024, because not all those people are the full-on forever DeSimps who just hate Trump and have TDS. Red Whale Politics says, did you see the church shaming black Trump voters? I did. I mean, it's unsurprising. You have a lot of very loud people on the left, but there's not as many of them as there was in Trump's first term. But the people that are angry are more unhinged than ever. They're more dumb than ever. They're more misaligned with reality than ever. And what that's doing is it's causing Trump to remain popular, and you're seeing that in a lot of these polls. American Nerd 1776 says, did DeSantis do anything of worth? Well, he was in Congress. If not, then why is he complaining that Donald's hasn't done anything? Well, that's a really good question. You can't answer it because it's a very important truth bomb you just dropped there. Red Whale Politics says, who should run in Kentucky to replace McConnell? I'm not sure. I'm not sold on Cameron. He's a McConnell acolyte. I don't know who else is going to run, but hopefully somebody that's actually more in line with a J.D. Vance or an actual MAGA populistic America First senator, not some empty suit for the establishment, because Kentucky deserves that. Kentucky's a very populist state, but the GOP's been run by the McConnell types for a very, very long time there. So we're going to wait and see on who that's going to be in terms of who runs. I know Cameron's in the running, but I don't know if he's guaranteed to even win the nomination, especially after he lost in 2023, which wasn't his fault. It's hard to beat incumbent governors that are popular. But DePueb says, why is Ash K2 so R-worded? You'd have to ask him that question. But I will say that every time that guy comes in and super chats something negative, he's usually wrong about it. So, I mean, as long as that track record continues, I think we'll happily accept the super chats. Let's see. Eric from Wisconsin for 10 says, rest your opening statement. Wisconsin needs to vote for Brad Schimmel. We can't afford to have catch and release Crawford on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Exactly. Like, this is a prime opportunity to make Wisconsin a red state moving forward, or a red leaning swing state instead of like a blue leaning swing state. You need to have control of the court. That means you can control redistricting. You can control the state legislature. You can make it easier to win elections with the election law stuff. And I think Eric Hovde is going to go for the governorship, and I think he has a shot. I really do. I mean, with Evers just imploding optics-wise on that, it's like, yeah, that's all you need. That's all you need. Giblets for 10 says, won't the Doge check cause inflation? I know the money's already spent, but they still have to... Well, I think it just would be better not to like send $10,000 checks to people because we just can now. Because we have a high inflation rate, needs to come down. I think less spending overall is probably going to be better. I think touting it is just holding it over people's heads was probably not the best thing to really bring up. But because keep in mind with the stimulus checks, it was mainly the last one that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So you could only imagine what could happen. Maybe like a certain tax break or something that spurs investment, which raises revenues. That could be beneficial. Red Whale Politics for 10 says, I agree with a lot of things that Ben Shapiro says, but he had an absolute L-take by saying that McConnell was one of our most successful leaders. Besides the Supreme Court, he sucks. Yeah, Shapiro is an establishment type of guy. Now, I will say this about Ben Shapiro. Lately, he's kind of known when to shut up more often. It doesn't take positions that end up blowing up in his face like he did with all these other current thing type of things that he supported, whether it's, I'm not going to vote for Trump in 2016, to, I'm going to shill the vax, to, I'm going to shill Ukraine. It's like he does something, then he walks it back. It's good that he's, I guess you would say, not doing it as much as he used to, because he has a big platform. And if you have a big platform, you should be as solid as possible, whether you're grifting or not. It's better that he'd be grifting, saying the right things. The problem is, that statement is wrong, 100% wrong. Not surprised to hear it from Shapiro, but as the things he's been, I guess you'd say the fact that he's not stepping on those third rails lately, didn't know he said that. But Scott B says, my understanding is that the Doge dividend to 5K is only 20% of what they will reapply to the national debt. Regardless, maybe our grandkids will live to see us pay off. Well, maybe. I don't know. It depends on how it's done. I'm saying on the surface level, just giving everybody like a Doge stimulus is not the best look. But if Doge actually uncovers that much nonsense and you balance the budget, then you could start talking about doing something like that. Absolutely. American Nerd 1776 says, thoughts on Dan Bongino being FBI deputy director? Well, I hope he does a great job. I like the idea. The FBI has been controlled by corrupt people who hate this country. People like Patel and Bongino, they love this country. They want to see it do well. They want to gut the deep state. That's why the left doesn't like them. So hopefully they go in there and do it. We have another super chat. American Nerd 1776 says, by the way, DeSantis' 2024 campaign manager is now Florida's attorney general. That's brutal. I mean, that's because think about it. You have to think about this. That guy should be unqualified to be running things in politics after he ran that disastrous campaign? Like, can we just not agree with that common sense there? Mac Baby says, when are we going to see, and I'm talking about the campaign manager when I say that, by the way. Mac Baby says, when are we going to see the deep state arrests made? I don't know when. I don't know how many arrests there will be. A lot of people already have been pardoned. The best thing to do with all the people that Biden pardoned would just be to bring them in for like the hearings that you can do, and then hold them in contempt of court, get them on perjury. That's what they've done. That's what they've done to us over very innocuous things for a very, very long time. Yeah, flip the script. I'm out for revenge. I am. I don't know. Some people might not be. I say revenge within reason. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because of what they've done to the justice system, the tides are turning. They are. American Nerd 1776 says DNI Tulsi Gabbard said on Fox that the 100-plus Intel officials are connected to the NSA secret sex chat room scandal and will have their security clearances immediately. Well, hopefully that's true. That's a good thing that all these people are getting confirmed. You know, you have to give John Thune credit where it's due. He within the first month, you have the whole cabinet, all like the controversial nominees that were a little bit questionable. They all got through, except Gates, but he withdrew on his own. And I don't even know if he was picked to really even be AG to begin with, more so than some like 40 chess movement of some of these pieces. But yeah, it was something about the NSA thing was something about like a sex chat room or something. I saw that. But anyways, guys, we've been going for about an hour and 11 minutes. This will be the last call for Super Chats. Didn't quite get to the 50, but we got 32. But we will be streaming again. We'll stream again on Thursday, do an end-of-the-month stream. But it's been a very jam-packed week in terms of 2026 stuff already. Which, I mean, you do love to see. People are already... They're still in the election zone. This is not like 2021 where people are just not paying attention. No, we have a Supreme Court race to win in Wisconsin in about 5 weeks, and we got to do it. And then we have this, we got all this 2026 primary drama, and it's good to deal with it early on. You don't want a lot of these contested primaries, at least in the swing states, but I mean, then again, Ohio and Florida are not swing states anymore. Thank you, Donald Trump, by the way. DePweb, thank you for the 2. Mac Baby says, did Butler evidence scrubbed when Patel is confirmed? Well, hopefully he's able to find that out and tell people. You know, we still would like to get to the bottom of this stuff. We'd like to have the JFK files released. We'd like to have the Epstein list released. I don't know when it's going to happen. They have to go through some process. But we gotta have as much accountability as possible. They didn't get to do what they could do for the past 9-10 years to us and then not get anything in return. Like, I know you're still wrestling with the swamp. The beast isn't dead yet, but it's definitely compromised. It's got a broken leg. It's not able to just walk all over us the way it used to. And that's a very good thing. And that's why the left is panicking. They panic over things that aren't worth panicking. They panic over things that are common sense. Red Whale Politics for 10 says, I don't know about you, but I would pay money to see Charlie Kirk destroy Harry Sisson's ass for an hour-long debate about Trump v. Biden. Yeah, I mean, it never gets old. It never gets old seeing Harry Sisson and his little weird crew take L's. The other friend of his had got like this big tattoo or something on his like stomach that said like the democracy dies in darkness, like Washington Post slogan. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. It was the most cringeworthy thing that I've seen on the internet in a very long time. But I saw that today. It's like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, those guys are some very sussy people. Call him Harry Sussin. But other than that, I mean, We pretty much covered everything, so I think we're gonna wrap things up in about a minute. But it's definitely been a good stream. It's good to be back. I was at CPAC over in DC where Elon made a surprise appearance on stage with the chainsaw. Talked about cutting the debt. Donald Trump, he gave a speech. It's good to actually be at a CPAC where you actually have a real president back in the White House. Definitely a better vibe, better energy for sure. So that's that. But before you guys go, make sure you guys like the stream. Let's get to 500 likes before we go. We got almost 450 people still in chat, and we'll wrap it up. It's been a good stream. We have one more super chat. This one, Agent Gabe for 5 says, Rep, not political. Wanted to say hi and tell you Ja Morant just saved my 3 ends of my 5-leg parlays and the game I was just at. Well, that's good to hear. Congratulations. Parlays are sometimes a little difficult to win. You got to get every single leg down. If you get them all, it's a very good return on investment. But if not, well, you're just like, you're on the verge of greatness and don't get there. But, it's always good to win one. So congratulations. But we are going to wrap things up. So I'd tell everybody in chat before we go, like the stream, subscribe, hit the bell. I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.